Welcome to You, Me and IT, the podcast taking us behind the title of some of the leading individuals in the IT channel. I'm Karlton Gray, UK and Ireland Channel Director at Schneider Electric, and in each episode I'll be speaking to some of the leading figures in one of the UK's most prominent industries. My guest in this episode is genuine, driven and ultimately loyal. I've known John from his first steps into the IT channel, and it's my privilege to learn a bit more about how he's navigated his career. Welcome John Bourne, General Sales Manager at Exertis.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
So John, from me I know you.
Yes.
But I don't know the ins and outs of you. I've seen you from afar. I've seen you working from the OA desk when I was in the majors team at Midwich. So we've crossed. But from a background perspective, where did you sort of grow up, and what was your sort of route into sales, IT? What was that like?
You'd probably say I had quite a unique childhood. So my mother is German. I was born in Germany, and my parents are both doctors. And I guess it was their legacy or their dream to kind of go out into the third world and make a difference. So a lot of my childhood was actually growing up in places like Ghana, Rwanda, Cambodia. With my mother being German, we spent some time in Berlin, the south of Germany, and in different kind of locations around the UK as well. Always kind of traveling with my parents' work. So as a result of that, I never really went to school over a consistent period of time. I'd be in school for a couple of years at a time, and then we'd probably move to somewhere else. And for the most part, especially when we lived out in Ghana, Cambodia, Rwanda, and places like that, I was actually home taught.
Okay.
So I did a German distant learning homeschooling course for pretty much most of my most of my time growing up, really, to be fair. And then when I was 18, maybe 17, 18, came back to the UK from Rwanda, and then I enrolled into City College, did my A-levels, and then after that...
Is that Norwich City College?
Yeah, Norwich City College, I did law, psychology, history and German. Managed to do the German A-level in 1 year, which I'm pretty chuffed with.
To be fair, you shouldn't be, because you basically had two German parents. So it's like me saying, actually, I might fail at English, but yeah.
Yeah, so that's very proud of that. And then pretty much for the first couple of years, I guess, of my early adult life, I worked in the little co-op in Long Stratton. It's not, I had I worked with 3 or 4 of my cousins who got me the job. I'm very, very grateful for that. Working behind the till, just... general retail kind of work. That's where I think I met you for the first time. You'd come in on a Sunday with your football mates, and we'd have a laugh and a giggle. And that's kind of what I guess probably my early starting of learning how to interact with customers, because I'd be there on the till. Norfolk's quite a small place. Long Stratton's quite a small place. So I quickly managed to kind of learn everyone around the village. And the little co-op was the place to be.
I don't necessarily think it was a place to be, but and just for people on camera, it was rugby, not football, just
apologies.
To make sure. I just don't want to go down that horrible route. So, from the co-op, was that straight to Midwich, or was?
No, I had a mate of mine who pretty much kind of introduced me to door-to-door sales. He was a good mate of mine, but he had a uncanny ability to be able to get me to do things that I didn't always kind of want to do. He had the gift of the gab, and he had an opportunity to become a self-employed, commission-only door-to-door salesperson, and he thought I'd be quite good at it. So I pretty much quit my job at the co-op from one day to the next, went up to Norwich, bought a suit, role-played in my living room on how to knock a door, got in a mate's car, and was appalling at door-to-door sales.
How did you role play knocking on the door?
Oh, we'd have a script, and we would just go through that script over and over and over again. And we'd have like a ball, and we'd throw the ball at each other, and we'd have to like objection handle a question. We just did it all ourselves. We watched videos online, and we just did it all ourselves. And yeah, I won't ever forget the first door that I knocked was just, I was a blubbering mess. It was hilarious.
Did you sell anything across that time?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So we were doing solar panels, loft insulation, cavity wall insulation, that type of stuff. It was about 3 or 4 of us. We would meet up in the evening. One of us would get online on Google Maps, try and scout out a good area that we could go and pitch to, if you like. We'd all then jump in the back of a mate's car and then literally just jump out of the car and go and knock estates. We'd kind of have a bit of a pattern left and right. So 2 of us on the right, 2 of us on the left. And yeah, the quicker we walked, the more money we made, is to be brutally honest with you. So brilliant. Absolutely loved it.
I think it's moulded you to the salesperson you are a lot today.
I think it's moulded me to the person I am today. Everything I've learned about how to interact with people, I've probably learned out of that experience. And bear in mind that, like, I grew up abroad. I grew up being homeschooled. I was in and out of school a lot. People could potentially argue I might have had a bit of a disadvantage when it comes to social interactions and stuff like that. We were often the only white family for miles, and the only people we would talk to was our own family.
Yeah.
So then after door to door, I then was a industrial painter for a little while with a chap who I'd actually met through working in the little co-op. And we were doing a couple of jobs, and unfortunately the work kind of dried up, so I got my suit back out again, and me and one of the other apprentices would sit in a van and drive around businesses around Norfolk trying to find work for print work, basically, or paint work, sorry, find jobs to sell our paint company. Yeah.
Random question, because obviously it's quite unique being a white family in a black community. Obviously where I'm mixed race, mum's white, dad's black, whatever. So I've had the best of both worlds. Yeah, I would say.
Yeah.
Each to their own, but that's my view. People talk about racism all the time and diversity. What was the flip when you was living in Uganda and places like that? How was you treated? How did that feel? Did that impact you at all? Was you how some black people are perceived in the UK? Did it feel like you were one of the minority sometimes? And did you have maybe a voice? Did you feel like you were... I don't feel like that, by the way. I've grown up and I feel that my heritage has helped me to get to where this is through having that way of balancing and being a bit of a chameleon sometimes. But did it impact on you?
I don't know. It has impacted me in the sense of I see the world probably differently than maybe the vast majority of my mates will have done, purely because they've probably spent all of their life here in the UK.
Yeah.
Whereas I've lived in an environment where there's only one jar of Nutella on the shelf.
Yeah.
I never will forget, I went to the bakery to go and buy bread, and the person that barged in front of me was someone that had an AK-47 slung over their shoulder. So, it's just a different perspective. We were never, ever treated badly. If I'm honest with you, I don't see race for race.
No, I know you.
Does that make sense? I try and see people for people who they are and what they can bring as individuals. But it probably makes you more socially aware that people are different, that people do come from different backgrounds and have had different experiences. That's probably what I would kind of take away from that.
Yeah, I think just when you said that, it almost pricked my ears a little bit, because I was like, I wonder what it's like. 'Cause I've had South African friends or whatever, but I've never had what I would class as, people would speak to you and say you're a British guy. What is it like being on the other side of the fence, if that makes any sense?
Yeah, I mean, I did spend most of my childhood wanting to be back in the UK.
Yeah.
So it's quite interesting, because obviously when you're kind of like in your early 20s, everyone wants to kind of go away traveling. Well, when I was in my early 20s, all I wanted to do was kind of be here.
Yeah.
And for the first, I went away for my cousin's wedding when I was maybe 28. That was the first time since I was 18 that I'd gone away. So 10 years staying in one place was a dream for me.
Yeah, no, I think I love Norwich too. we are both from Norwich. I'm from London, but now I would say I'm more from
Norfolk and proud.
Yeah, Norfolk and proud. So you went from the selling, like the
door-to-door
paint,
sales,
and then
the paint job,
and then what was next?
and then I worked for a cold calling telesales company in Norwich, and we were doing sort of like charity campaigns for like Macmillan cancer support. We were doing it for Diabetes UK and charities like that, and that was cold call, ringing people out of the blue, and looking to get them to sign up to kind of like a raffle or some form of donation to a charity.
Again, I know I keep saying, and then what was next?
And then after that, I had my CV online, and I got a call from Midwich, who invited me in for an interview to join their document solutions account management team.
OA?
Under Heidi Lucas. And so I came in, went for the interview. I'd like to say I did really well for my first interview. Came back for a second interview. Didn't do too well at my second interview. I'm quite honest and open about that. But they still gave me an opportunity. I was very young, very
Green.
Yeah, probably quite arrogant. I had slits in my eyebrows. I was, yeah.
You were cool.
In
your world.
I look back at it now and think, what the hell was I thinking? But and then joined the account management team, and I remember sitting at the desk in my induction and Googling what office automation meant under the desk, because I was like, what the hell have I got myself into? Bearing in mind I'd come from a B2C environment where I was selling directly to the customer, whereas this was business to business. I'd know a concept of how to get around the gatekeeper. Why would someone buy this printer off me? It was alien, really. But I had absolutely fantastic people around me that have helped me and shaped me and pushed me to kind of where I am today. So I'm very grateful for that.
The reason why you stood out so much, and it's really, really basic, I would say. I've been in the business for quite a while at that time.
Yep.
And I looked over and I thought, who is that guy standing up with a headset? And I was like, and your arms were all over the place. You were talking to people and it felt like you were right in the call. It felt you were so passionate about what you were doing. I didn't know what you were doing. I don't think you knew what you were doing at the beginning.
I did what I was doing.
But I think you showed that there was a real passion to drive and be hungry, and there was never a time when you walked around and you were just sat talking. Most of the time when you looked over at John Bourne, he was on the phone, standing up, selling. And it was almost like that is someone who is hard selling. That is someone who is going after the business and hunting and driving it. So much so that when I went to my role, the first person that I was trying to get approached was you, which I was told no, and I took that.
I appreciate
and
that.
then I asked
you.
again and was told no, and then about a couple of years, no. But the next part of your journey and your career. So tell me about that. So what happened then?
So I was at Midwich for 2 years. I guess I kind of looked after the more new businessy accounts for the print team. Back then we did a lot of Samsung print, and I loved Samsung as a brand, and as a result of me working with them, I kind of tended to then look after the vast majority of the Samsung print accounts, which meant I worked quite closely with Teresa Downs. I guess the next step of my journey was then my move from Midwich to Exertis. Yeah. And it was myself, Teresa Downs and Alistair Coyne that I guess essentially were approached by Exertis or agreed with Exertis that we would grow and help and build their B2B print business. So from one moment to the next, although it was probably a bit more emotional than that at the time, I handed in my notice at Midwich and agreed that I would join Teresa and Al at Exertis as then the only print account manager. I had a month's garden leave. Best summer ever. It was really, really, really warm. It was absolutely fantastic. And then, joined, and it was just me, Teresa, and Al in we office shared with a with another company in Ketteringham Hall in Norfolk.
Yeah, I remember.
There was no phone signal. There was no internet. It was very much.
I'd say welcome to Norfolk.
It was. Yeah, it was tough. We had to get IT to install some special things so we could actually get online. We didn't have like proper desks, proper chairs. Teresa was, I think, at that point like 8 months pregnant. So we just had to push a load of desks together. And in fairness, they weren't out. They were talking to the vendors, talking to the strategic customers, and it was just me in the office by myself. Phone, desk, computer.
Go for it.
Going for it, basically.
You're on the phones,
Yep.
hammering it.
Yep.
You're still progressing.
Yeah.
And you've got some great people.
Yes.
Al, Jamie,
Yeah.
Teresa, that behind you and supporting you. And that office was just getting bigger and bigger. And I think, did it move to Snetterton?
Yeah, so we moved from one room in Ketteringham Hall into another room, and then from that room we've then moved to a office off Snetterton Racetrack. And it's you sometimes have to step back and look at it and you go, wow, that was 3 people or 4, because Jamie was very much part of that journey as well, and we're now an office of 25. With both now AV and print operating out of that office as well. And it's a phenomenal thing to kind of see when you think, wow, at one point we didn't even have phone signal.
I still don't have phone signal. So it's great.
Yeah.
But I remember you had a 50cc red motorbike, and come rain, shine, snow, you would be on driving from Long Stratton to Midwich.
Hands used to hurt so
I just
bad.
remember people overtaking you constantly.
Apart from that stretch on Vincent's Road where they've got traffic lights there now, so I'm not sure if the queue is as bad, but the traffic would be stretched all the way back up the hill, and there'd be me on my. It was a 125, but still not.
It sounded
sounded like a 50cc motorbike, and I'd nip down down Vincent's Road, and then if we get onto the bypass out of this, everyone would just overtake me. I was late to drive, and I to this day I don't think anyone was more happy that I passed my driving test than Al, because he had to stop driving me around everywhere. He'd have to drive past his house to drop me off. He's not let me forget that. So
I don't think you should ever forget that, because that made you value it. And
I now have a 1000cc motorbike.
Okay.
So I'm very happy, and I still ride that and think my beginnings of my little 125.
I have a 900cc Fiesta.
Why? Oh, right. Okay.
Yeah. So part of my journey is when I was diagnosed with cancer, I used to have a lovely car.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not saying cars mean everything to everyone, but when I left, because when I got my car, it was almost a status thing for me. It was me saying to everyone, look how well I'm doing. Look at me. And I had a Range Rover. I've had nice cars. But what I mean by that is I had a nice car. I had an XC40 when I got diagnosed. And unfortunately, I couldn't drive for 2 years, so they took my car.
Okay.
And that was hard, because living in Norfolk, you lose your independence.
Yeah, 20 minutes drive from everywhere.
But what Schneider did, and what people in there, they helped me get an electric bike, so it meant I could take my children to school. So it's those little things that I think some people will think that's really basic, but in that moment, for me, the most important thing that was narrowed that cycle was, I'm going to lose my car. I can't take my boy to football. I can't take my daughter to the theatre. I can't take her to drum. I can't take her to gymnastics. And it was all centred around, not can I travel up and down to see people. It was all centred around, how am I going to manage my family? And then that made a huge impact on my wife, and she became super taxi. And I had loads of friends as well that would pick me up, take me to hospital, or take me to, and family as well. That it became all the people that you think that weren't there came in an instant, and it was tough, like asking people for help. And I thought it was horrible. Anyone that knows me says I don't ask for help.
Yeah.
you could ask me to do stuff for you, and I'm like, yeah. You ask me for help, I'm picking up all this weight or this washing machine. I'm like, no, I've got it in the back. But like I said, when I was diagnosed, it made me feel like that community came back into it. And but to go back to cars, when now I can drive again. My wife has got a nice car, but her old car was the Fiesta, and I've still got that old Fiesta as my car. For me, it was getting back into it and learning again how to maybe drive a little bit.
Wow.
Was not learning to drive, but it was almost weird because I followed the rules. When they told me, I was like, I'm not driving it.
Yeah.
And I think that was important when I got my license back. It gave me my independence, and I didn't feel weird trying to drive without a license or anything like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was a tough time. But like I said, you have a 1,000cc bike. I have a 900cc little Fiesta that gets me from A to B. So it's not about, I've learned through looking out the window and learning about certain things that I do like nice things.
Yes.
Granted, I do. I'm not saying I don't, but they don't make the world go round.
No,
And
I think that's fair.
by having time to reflect, I now feel more wealthy because of my children and because of my wife, because of my mum, my brothers, should I say. I've got engaged and closer again with my brothers, my cousin Dan. Like, there's loads of people that maybe before it gave them an excuse to call me, and it gave me an excuse when I was recovering to call them.
Yeah.
And there was people that came out of the woodwork that I'm really good friends with now that you didn't think you were that close with. So yeah, it was a challenging time.
Yeah.
But it's actually broadened my view of people. I don't have loads of friends, but I have a lot of kind people around me, and things that I would almost, that the stuff I'd done previously to help people, I would say, that moving house effect. Like, sometimes, I'll be there.
Yeah.
And then you look round and as you lived in a box with your other half, I'd always be the guy that would get out of bed early to support you, and then I'd go and do something else. So yeah, it was a real impact for me. So now your role is GSM.
Yep.
So that's General Sales Manager.
Yes.
Massive achievement. Like, I didn't realise your background before.
Yes.
Like, I didn't know. I've never asked. Unfortunately, that's really bad on me. But
No,
but
not at all.
we've just talked about rubbish stuff. Like, we've just had general chit chats, and I suppose you're on that trajectory of going up at the moment. So what's the sort of next, the future? Like, what are you looking to? You said you're driven.
Yes.
What do you want to achieve for your team or your home life, or what does that look like? What's next?
I mean, I think professionally wise, I want us to be number one, without a shadow of a doubt, in every category that we can possibly be. I think I've always been quite guilty of, once I've achieved something, concentrating or focusing on what the next thing is and what the next thing is. I think it happens quite a lot probably in our industry as a salesperson, or as a just in our industry as general. But I think as I probably get a bit older and probably a bit more mature as I progress through my career, making sure that we do the basics right and having that really solid foundation, and that we bring people with us on the journey, is probably what is my immediate focus and my goal right now, rather than what is the next thing or what's the next exciting thing can I hang my hat on. I have a great team. I want to, and like I said, I want to be number one, 100%.
Kudos to you. I think sometimes you look too far ahead and forget what's in front of you, and you miss all the stuff that's in front of you by looking so over someone's shoulders.
Yeah, 100%.
It seems like you're just flying at the moment. But is there any real obstacles that you're seeing at the moment for you, or do you see anything from? You're a young guy, right? But what do you see like in the channel? Do you think there's any obstacles for new people coming in? Because you're one of a few that's almost got in done really well.
Yes.
And now I suppose you're reaping the fruits of your labour. But what stops? What would you say to other people that are entering the channel from a young person's perspective?
Work hard.
Yeah.
And take nothing for granted, and nothing comes easy at all. If you want to achieve something, you have to put the hard work and the dedication in. I'm not a particularly smart person. I didn't ever went to university. I haven't got any degrees or anything like that. I mean, like I said to you earlier, my parents are both doctors, and I've sold photocopiers. It's not the same thing, is it really? But I do believe I work hard, and you have to work harder than the next person. Be in early, work through your lunch, stay late, do what it is that you need to do to be the best, and put the graft in. But also be humble about it. Don't be too flashy about it, and stand by what you say.
Yeah, no, I think
100%.
Testament to who you are again. If you speak to people that know you, they will go, great guy, good lad. And I know you're not a lad, but that terminology is like an appreciation for who you are and what you're about, because it's clearly evident to everyone else, maybe not you yet, that you don't see how good and how much of an impact you make on others. I've done similar jobs to you, and I've got my own character. I know to work hard. I know it's not that you don't learn from other people, but getting in early, leaving late, the basics of picking up the phone, being present, listening, being true to yourself, loyal, kind. All of those things are ingrained in us from such a place.
Would you say anyone particularly in your growing up or that has kind of taught you to be like that? What's driven you to have that as your ethos?
My mum is definitely that pillar, and my granddad. But I think because growing up you don't necessarily always have a father figure around you. I didn't personally, and I think it really hit when I got to Norfolk, really, and I started at Hamilton's Removals.
Oh yeah.
And there was a guy there called Andy Bendel, and he made an impact. So I was like, he's such a kind bloke. And bearing in mind I didn't know him, he used to pick me up because I didn't drive when I first moved to Norfolk, and take me to work. But then he'd have time to talk to me about what's going on, what's going on. And that's not to not, and I've mentioned him loads of times, Cal, my best mate, he showed me that you need to do certain things, you need to go out and hunt, you need to be more confident in your approach. And I was really shy back then. I was super shy.
I'd struggle to believe that.
I know, but it was almost the facade. And I'm quite shy sometimes now, and I like my own space. But I put on this front to everyone that's like the car thing. It's still there.
Yeah.
Like to show everyone. I had to show people, to show them I didn't care. I had to show people that I was the best.
Bravado, isn't it?
Bravado. Yeah. I think the first real person that I was like identified as, you're amazing, was Scott Norman at Midwich. And I thought, you're fantastic. And he would say stuff and I'd just be sapping it in. And when he gave me praise, it was for something. It was like a wagging dog. I was like, this is amazing. And then moving forward, like it was Mark Cummins and all the people that people like I wasn't as close with Al, but like I worked closely with Jamie as well, people that and I was learning all the time, because like I said, I didn't know anything about IT. I didn't know emails or whatnot. And then I moved across to Schneider, and then a guy called David Terry sort of almost took me under his wing a little bit, and he knew I was maybe a bit rough, a bit raw. But he helped me. So there's been loads of people, and I could talk about tons of people, but I almost took a little bit from, like, I had my mum as the woman in my life at that time, but from a male role model, it was a little bit from a lot. And then as I've got older, started to learn from my brothers, and especially my oldest brother. And I'm like, you don't need to go out and be as showy. I'm still going to be a little bit, but you don't need to for you to be happy. Because I was always trying to live someone else's life, to say that I'm Mr. Showy, I'm Mr. And I tried to be like other people. If you had Gucci shoes, I'm trying to get Gucci shoes. So I was always trying to be someone else. And then I found my lane. And then I found my children became my focus. And that became my tunnel vision time. That's how I've built my personality. And I think built who I am. So there's been people along the way that have slapped me down. I've had negative comments as well. The worst thing is that from a negative perspective, that's drove me. When I had my first interview with Scott for the job, I said, I just want to make my mum proud. And it was from the heart. And I was like, that's who I wanted to be. Because it just inherent. She'd done so much for me. So I'm like, I need to now wave the flag. And I know my mum's proud of me and my brothers, but for her to be able to wave the flag and say, my son's doing this, my son's doing that, it was so important to me. And she thought I was just selling TVs, but she didn't care. I could be selling whatever, but she wouldn't care. And that was really important to me. So yeah, I would say there's several men in this, and they know the people, especially like I said, when I got ill, it gave me the opportunity to take time with each of those people to let them know directly, because I thought I only had a little bit of time left. So I went panic mode and went, right, I'm telling you I love you because of this. I'm telling you I love you because of this. And I made sure that I went round and did everyone, like Jack Hibbert. He's fantastic for me because, like Paul Cayley, there's so many different people. Like the list is super long. But yeah, it was sometimes having an illness brings people around that table again to enable you to have that real sense of belonging.
Yeah. But I think that's testament to your character though, because you've taken something that is very negative and turned it into a positive though.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. I think it has an impact on everyone, doesn't it? And I don't want to be the guy that sat here going, it's great, it's fantastic, this is amazing.
No.
However, when we talk about that whole wellness piece, there's people who I work with day to day, they're senior managers that will put a note in my diary for a one-to-one, and I say, oh, what's going on? And they go, just checking in. And you're like, are you doing this? Why are you doing it? They're like, hey, how are you doing? And you're like, really?
Yeah.
And you meet new people along the way that become pivotal in your how you feel every day. But it's been a journey for me anyway. But I suppose we all have ups and downs, obstacles along the way. How would you say people describe you? What would you say 3 things about you, like 3 words, and a little bit of context to why?
I'd like that people would consider me as probably hardworking, fair, dedicated or passionate. I guess what kind of like an in between the two. You know, I've seen what it looks like to live without anything, and that thought scares me. So if I can invest as much time and energy in building something, both professionally and personally, then I will do that. So I will work incredibly hard to achieve my own little empire, if you like. I think definitely in management, you have to be fair. You have to try and consider all the facts. And I know 100% that I don't get it right every single time. Even as a parent or as a stepfather, you got to try and be fair, consider all the options, and consider the long-term implications of the decisions that you might make. And I'm hella dedicated. When I decide to put my mind to something, I'm all in. Be it the gym, be it a hobby that I've taken on, be it work, my relationship, I'm all in. I'm fully invested because I don't believe in
Why not?
half measures or cutting corners or any of that. So if those were the three things that I'd want people to see me as, or I'd hope that's what I try and project out there, then I'm very happy.
What would you say to the young people that are looking at jobs at the moment? It's not easy, by the way, with no experience and stuff. What would you say is a key for them to? Because the IT industry is a great place to work.
Yeah,
it's brilliant. It sounds
giving me everything that I've
me
got.
everything.
Yeah.
And
My relationship, everything.
Yeah.
I've partners in the industry as well. So yeah, everything. I've recently gone through quite a bit of recruitment, and it's quite interesting to see people come in from such different demographics. And I almost, I'm not sure whether I want to admit this on camera, but I almost will not look at a CV. I will disregard the CV, and I will try and bring as many people in to the business as I possibly can and see as many people as I possibly can. If you are in an interview, if you are at the start of your career, just be honest. Be honest and listen to what I'm telling you, and don't be so fixated on necessarily telling your own story. It probably comes back to that old saying around sales: you've got two ears and one mouth, and use it in that order. And if anyone comes in for an interview for a sales role with me, I expect that they make me do most of the talking. If I'm doing most of the talking, they've got me. We're eating out the palm of their hand, quite frankly. So be honest and listen, because anyone can write anything up on a CV. Anyone can kind of project themselves in any kind of way that they want to do. Just be authentic, be yourself, be real.
I think if you go into that conversation being you, and you said it earlier on that everyone knows me for being the same as I was.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone knows Karlton.
Karlton.
I don't think it's it's a good thing or a bad thing. I don't know. But I think I don't have to hide from. I'm kind, caring, but I'm a bit emotional sometimes. But I don't care because that's who I am.
Yeah.
But I've got people's back all the time.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it's a great trait to have. What do you want your legacy to be? So I appreciate you're relatively young, but what do you want when you step away from this and you're an old man sat there, or you're not here anymore? What's your legacy? What do you want people to say? What's your stamp?
I saw a meme once. I wish I knew I was in the good old days.
With Andy from The Office, yeah.
When I'm still in the good old days.
How weird is that? I've said that in another podcast. I've said the same thing. Yeah.
Just live in the moment.
So important.
Yeah.
Live in the moment. Live life while you're living, because tomorrow is not promised. And I think that's a great way to, I suppose, end this podcast.
Karlton, I really appreciate you giving me the opportunity to be here. So thank
Appreciate you coming down, mate.
Thank you very much.
Lovely to find out stuff that I should already know, which I feel bad for. But yeah,
Don't feel bad. No, it's good.
Really good, mate.
Thank you.
Thank you.